We're talking about Shehecheyanu. Since this is a halacha shiur, I want to begin with the Shulchan Aruch. One could begin with the Gemara. Make a lot of sense to begin with the Mishnah and Gemara, and then go through the generations and see what the poskim have to say about it. But I want to start with the bottom line with the halacha. It says in the Shulchan Aruch, and as in all of my classes, I'm not going to bother to tell you exactly where I take the sources from, because you have the exact siman number and paragraph number on the screen, and you have it on this is exactly the same as the source sheet that was distributed by email. So you can always check out my typographical errors, and if you wish to see the broader context, you can do that. What it says in the Shulchan Aruch is haro'eh pri chadash. Notice that the Shulchan Aruch says haro'eh, when you see the fruit. You might see it while it's growing on the tree. You might see it in the market when it's available for sale. You might see it when whoever went to the market brought it home to your house. But when you see the pri chadash, the new fruit, mitchadesh mishana l'shana, if we're talking about a fruit which is renewed yearly, that is, it's seasonal and not available all year long, available depending upon its season. When I first came to Israel, not so long ago, we did not have tomatoes all year long. I'm speaking North American English. I hope that's okay. If we need Commonwealth, we can switch to Commonwealth English. We did not have tomatoes all year long. The first tomatoes came in the summer, in the early summer. I remember the first tomatoes that reached the market. They were very expensive, the first ones, but they came from kibbutz Sde Boker, which is has a very hot climate, and their tomatoes were always the first to ripen. Oh, what a joy! What a joy that we had tomatoes. It had been months since we had tomatoes. Well, of course, there's a lot of joy, a lot of simcha with it when the new fruit arrives. And the example I gave is borei pri adama. Halachically, it makes no difference whether we're talking about borei pri ha'etz, fruit of the tree, or borei pri adama, a vegetable, fruit of the ground. It makes no difference. Indeed, according to most poskim, exactly the same rule applies to smells, which are renewed yearly. Nowadays, this doesn't come up so much, but back in the old days, when people would use jasmine or other fragrant plants to make the house smell good, and they would be available seasonally. Then when the new season came for jasmine or whatever it is you're using in your house, and that also calls for a Shehecheyanu. Bottom line, it's when you see the fruit or vegetable like tomatoes. When you see it, you make the bracha Shehecheyanu.
Wait, so no matter where you see it?
Correct. For
Even
example,
if you see it on the tree, it's totally unavailable.
Yes, you see it. You're visiting the farm, someone's farm, or it's just a grapevine growing on in the public area, pomegranate, whatever it is. When you see it, then you make the bracha afilu biad chaviro. It doesn't matter whether you own it or not. It can be in the market, and you have no intention to buy it. It could be on the farmer's tree, and you have no intention to pluck it or buy it or take it home. You're just seeing the new fruit calls for Shehecheyanu. Oh, ala ilan, doesn't matter whether it's on the tree, not harvested yet, doesn't matter whether you intend to buy it, doesn't matter whether you intend to eat it or not. Just seeing it is the source of simcha, and that's what calls for Shehecheyanu. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. And indeed, the Shulchan Aruch is just quoting Chazal and quoting what all of the Rishonim copy over from Chazal. But then adds a new note. Nahagu, the minhag is Shalom levarech ad shasa achila, not to eat it, not to make the bracha until you're ready to eat it. And as you know, that's the common. Now the question arises: number one, why did the minhag change? In the early days, people were making the bracha when they saw the new fruit. Nowadays, the practice is to make the bracha Shehecheyanu when you eat the new fruit. Number one, how did it change? I mean, who had the authority to change the halacha, which is in the Mishnah and the Gemara and the Tosefta and the Brises, according to which you make the bracha when you see it? Who had the authority to change the halacha, to delay the halacha? Who knows how much time? It could be weeks of delay. And why did it change? Why did it change? Who changed it? The answer to these questions is simple and straightforward. And we're going to see what the Mefarshim, what the commentaries have to say. The Mishnah Brura, there's no more standard work than that, says, why do we wait until we're going to eat it? We wait and we hold the Shehecheyanu, and we don't say Shehecheyanu until we're going to eat the new fruit. Demisha ein libo sameach b'riyaso, because if you don't have the simcha, if you don't rejoice just seeing the fruit, rak ba'achilaso, you only experience the joy, the simcha, when you eat it. Kuli alma, everyone will agree that the bracha should be made achila at the time of eating. That's the reason it's changed. The justification for changing has to do with the understanding of the original halacha. Back in those days, people experienced simcha just seeing the new fruit, and the bracha Shehecheyanu is not really dependent on the seeing. It's not a bracha on vision. After all, we don't have brachot when you see something. Well, a few special brachot when you see certain special things. You see lightning. You see the Yam HaGadol. But in general, we don't make brachas of nehenin, brachas because we receive enjoyment, like for food or for drink or for smelling. We don't make these brachas on vision. The Shehecheyanu is not because you see it, it's because of the simcha. And if your simcha is delayed until you eat it, so you delay the bracha until you eat it. The Ramah adds, the Ashkenaz posek adds, Umisha berach b'shasa re'iyah lo yifsid. If you still experience simcha when you see the fruit the first time, if that awakens simcha in your heart, by all means, we're not prohibiting making the bracha when you see it. And if you experience simcha at that time, by all means, make the bracha then. Ve'ein levarech ad shenigmar tashlum gidul hapri. In any event, if you are making the bracha when you see it, which is correct, there's nothing wrong with it, it has to be a fully ripe fruit. Just because the grapes began to grow, and you see tiny grapes which are not ready to harvest, no, that's not ready for the bracha. The fruit has to be ready to eat, or the vegetable has to be ready to eat, and then you can make the bracha when you see it. Although the more common minhag is to make the bracha when you eat it. It all depends, not on seeing, not on eating. It all depends upon when you experience simcha. V'im lo berech b'riya rishona, if you didn't make the bracha the first time you saw grapes in the market. I'm so amber, like I'm like from the 20th century. Just as recently as a few years ago, like as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, we did not have grapes all year long. Now, you go to the shuk, you go to Mahane Yehuda, and they have grapes all year long. They import them from South Africa. They import them from the Antipodes. The so I'm sort of stuck with this old example of grapes because, well, grapes used to be seasonal. Yachol levarech b'riyash niyah. If you didn't make the bracha the first time you experienced simcha, then you can make it the second time you experience simcha. Um, well, perhaps your simcha dissipates. Perhaps after you've already seen it once, or already eaten it once, perhaps you're not going to have special simcha anymore. Maybe it's only the first time that you eat it, or only the first time that you see it, that you experience the simcha. Well, it all depends on simcha. If you missed the first opportunity to make the bracha, you can make it the second time, assuming that you still experience the simcha. The Ateres Kalim, one of the principal commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, says, "Lav dafka shindit chadesh mishana l'shana." We're not talking necessarily about a fruit which is available only once a year, where the season only comes once a year. Even if the fruit is available only every half year, a 6 month interval is enough. Going 6 months without it, and then it becomes available again. That's enough to generate simcha. Well, it's not the interval of a year which is important. It's the interval of time where you've missed the fruit, you've missed the vegetable for a while, and now after a number of months, since it comes back into the market, and now there's a new crop available, now you experience simcha again. Most vegetables are available all year long. Well, I suppose it depends on what country you're in and what vegetable it is, but most vegetables are available all year long and therefore are never going to call for a Shehecheyanu. That's the Shulchan Aruch, and those are the basic principles. Now we have to have some deeper understanding of the way the halacha works. The first issue to be clarified is whether the bracha of Shehecheyanu is chova, obligatory, or is it reshus? Is it optional? And well, I wouldn't even raise the question unless it were a machlokas poskim. The poskim do disagree on exactly this question. Is the bracha of Shehecheyanu obligatory, chova, or is it optional, reshus? Let's see the opinions of the poskim. The Eliyah Rabbah, 17th century, no, that's not true. 18th century, Lithuania. His family name was Shapiro, but in the yeshiva world, you talk about the opinion of Rabbi Shapiro, Eliyahu Shapiro. No one will know who you're talking about. The Sefer is well known, very well known by its name. The opinion of the Eliyah Rabbah is as follows. He quotes the Knesset Hagdolah. Knesset Hagdolah was written by Reb Chaim ben Vinisti in the previous century. Ein chiyuv shehecheyanu al perot hamitchadshin. Fruits which are seasonable have no chiyuv, no obligation of reciting shehecheyanu. Kevan shu reshus, since this is an optional bracha, ein shum onesh l'misha lo berech. Omitting the bracha, simply not reciting the bracha, is in no sense a chet, in no sense sinful. And then, of course, there's no punishment for failing to say the bracha. Very different from perpetuates, adama. These brachas are obligatory. It is prohibited to eat the food without pronouncing the proper bracha before it. Perpetuates, adama, shakol nihir b'dvaro, mizonot, whatever the bracha is, it is prohibited to eat the food until you say the proper bracha. In halachic terminology, the bracha is matir. The bracha permits eating the food. The food has a prohibition sitting on it until such time as you make the bracha, and the bracha then permits eating the food. The underlying reason for that, according to the Gemara, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world and everything in it. The fruit, the cheese, whatever it is you're eating, initially belonged to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore, for you to have the right to benefit from it, you can't steal from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's called the sin of Me'ilah, the sin of sacrilege, if you steal from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the halacha has a heter to eat the food, and the bracha is the heter. The bracha is matir. The bracha permits eating the food, but a new fruit, as long as you've made the proper perpetuates or perpetuadama, you're allowed to eat the food without a Shehecheyanu. V'chein katav b'kesef Mishnah. This is also the opinion of the Kesef Mishnah that that Shehecheyanu is reshut, optional, and not chiyuv, not obligatory. And Kesef Mishnah was written by Rabbi Yosef Karo. Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote a number of preliminary works leading up to the Shulchan Aruch. He wrote an encyclopedic commentary on the Tur called the Beit Yosef. He wrote this commentary on the Mishnah Torah of the Rambam called the Kesef Mishnah. These were all preliminary works leading up to the Shulchan Aruch. So although in the Shulchan Aruch, we saw the text of the Shulchan Aruch at the top of the sheet, although the Shulchan Aruch does not mention one way or another whether the bracha is obligatory or optional, we know the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch because he told us this in the earlier commentary he wrote on the Mishnah Torah that it's reshus, optional. V'chein pasak Bach, the Bach, Rav Yoel Sirkis from Lithuania in the 17th century, and again, the name Rav Yoel Sirkis is not very well known in the yeshiva world. He's called the Bach. He says the same thing in the oldest Talmud. Well, the list can be made very long of the poskim, all of whom agree that it's optional to recite this bracha. Now, of course, you don't need me to tell you that reciting the bracha in praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, renewing the fruit for us, you don't need me to tell you that it's commendable, praiseworthy, that it's advisable. You don't need me to tell you that shvach, the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is something which is advisable, good, commendable, but there's some distance between good, commendable, praiseworthy, advisable on one hand, and obligatory on the other. Obligatory it is not. It is something to be encouraged. It is a good idea, but that's not the same as saying it's obligatory. However, he writes, this is still the Eliyah Rabbah, Matzati b'hagos smak, I found in the notes of the smak, the Sefer Mitzvahs HaKotan, Tzorfat, I am a very bad typist, it should say Tzorfat, 13th century Tzorfat. He says, Chova. There is an opinion, namely, one of the 13th century rabbis from France who said chova, it's obligatory to recite the bracha. This is an opinion. Lachein, therefore, since this stricter opinion exists, according to which it's obligatory to recite the bracha, lachein ani omar, therefore I say, these are still the words of the Eliyah Rabbah, Ra'ui lizaher shelo levatlo. Ra'ui, it is correct, it is seemly, it is fitting, it is advisable, commendable, and praiseworthy, and all kinds of good things to recite the bracha, and but not exactly obligatory. That's what the Eliyah Rabbah teaches us. the Mishnah Brura, commenting on the words of the Shulchan Aruch, which
What
say,
is that? Sorry. What's that abbreviation, the Ayin Chaf Lamed?
um, the, that's a good question.
Ad kan Lishano.
When I type up the sources, I usually avoid Rashi Tevot abbreviations. Abbreviations were extraordinarily popular back in the days of handwritten manuscripts. Well, that's what a manuscript is, handwritten. Back in the days of manuscripts, abbreviations were very, very popular because it was a lot of work copying a manuscript, and anything that could shorten the text, uh, abbreviations, well, that lessens the workload, and well, that was really popular. But unfortunately, the abbreviations become quite burdensome nowadays, trying to figure out what they mean. As in this case, uh,
Oh.
the abbreviation you're referring to, Ayin Kaf Lamed, comes the from the old days in antiquity and in the Middle Ages and into early modern times. Quotation marks had not yet been invented, and therefore, in the earlier days, before quotation marks were invented, authors in different languages had different ways of indicating that they're giving you a direct quote. And in rabbinic literature, the standard formulation for saying the following is a direct word-for-word quotation is to begin the direct word-for-word quotation with the abbreviation Zayin Lamed, Ze Lishono. Ze Lishono means the following is not a paraphrase. The following is not a summary. The following is word for word, a precise quotation of the source. And you end the quotation with Ayin Kaf Lamed Ad Kan Lishono. Up to here is the exact quote. So Ze Lishono at the beginning of the quote, Ad Kan Lishono at the end of the quote, and that means it's a word for word direct quotation. And in this case, I am quoting the Elia Rabbah word for word. So I ended with Ad Kan Lashon Elia Rabbah. I've just quoted for you, not summarized, not paraphrased. I've just copied word for word the words of the Elia Rabbah.
That was you.
You see, and anything can have a long explanation. The Mishnah Brura, whom we return to over and over again because it's so authoritative, Mishnah Brura is really divided into three parts. The Mishnah Brura is in general just a simple statement of the halacha. Sometimes he goes into greater depth of analysis, and that's printed on the inside margins with the under the title Biur Halacha. With the same author, the deeper ideas are put into the Biur Halacha, and the simple statements of Halacha are in the Mishnah Brura. So there's a third element, the Sha'ar Hatziyun, the sources, which are all given at the bottom of the page, where he gives you the sources that he's basing himself on, with occasional extra notes and explanations in the Sha'ar Hatziyun, the notes at the bottom of the page. In any event, the Mishnah Brura, in the section called Bir Halacha, Katav, V'zeh Lishono, and this is the direct quotation, Zeh Lishono, Heichan matzinu bracha she'einu mechuyev klal, va'afilu hachi rashai levarech. Never heard of such a thing as an optional bracha. Never heard of such a thing. Where did this idea of an optional bracha come from? Look, either a bracha is obligatory, or it constitutes the use of God's name in vain. That would seem to be the only two possibilities. You can't just stand up and recite a bracha whenever you want, borei pri agafen when you're not drinking wine. You can't just stand up whenever you want and recite the brachas of Shema on Shema Yisrael or the Birchas HaShachar. You can't just recite these whenever you want. Either you are fulfilling an obligation, or if you're not fulfilling an obligation to recite the brachas, then their recitation is a use of God's name in vain and prohibited. Whoever heard of this thing as an optional optional? Whoever heard of such a thing as an optional bracha? Even though all these poskim say it's optional, ain't a kavanah reshus gamur. They don't really mean it. They don't really mean that you can decide whether or not you want to say it. It's not totally optional, not reshus gamur. It's not completely optional. Ella lav chiyuva kolkach. It's just not so obligatory. There are other things which are more obligatory. Life often becomes complicated, and you're often faced with the decision. I have many obligations. Which is the most important obligation to fulfill first? And maybe I won't even have time to fulfill all my obligations. Maybe I cannot fulfill all my obligations. It's important to know which are the more important ones. Sort of like if I look at the pile of bills which I have to pay, I have to pay, they're all obligatory. I have to pay all the bills which arrive every month, but some are more important than others. And of course, I want to pay the important ones first. There's no such thing as an optional bracha. It's just less obligatory than other brachas. And this is going to become an important issue when we come to discuss which comes first, perpetuates or Shehecheyanu. The idea that the obligation of Shehecheyanu is not so important, that's going to be an important element in the discussion of which should come first. That'll be for later. Mitzvah levarech yesh bazeh. It's definitely a mitzvah, and therefore not only commendable, praiseworthy, and advisable, it's strongly, very strongly, extremely strongly recommended that this is something you should do. You shouldn't skip the bracha. That's the way the Mishnah Brura understands it. Let's look at other views. The Aruch HaShulchan. Oh, one of my favorites. It's actually my favorite 20th century. Nirelo nidati. It seems, in my humble opinion, he writes, T'chol mine Birkas Shehecheyanu, all of the Shehechyanus, those on fruits, those on holidays, every holiday gets a Shehecheyanu, new Shehecheyanu on new clothing, all of the examples of Shehecheyanu, habayim mizman lizman kavua. If we want to talk about the ones which have fixed times, like Hanukkah, Purim, any Shehecheyanu which has a fixed time, the first night you light Ner Hanukkah, the first night when you read the Megillas Esther, these are fixed times, calling for Shehecheyanu. Where there is a fixed time, chova, it's obligatory. Share brachas Shehecheyanu, but all the other examples of Shehecheyanu, on a new fruit, on a new garment, where there's no fixed time on the calendar when you're supposed to say it, those are all reshus. Those are the optional ones. Lefichach, harbe mekilim b'zeh. Therefore, many people simply do not recite Shehecheyanu on a new fruit. Many people simply do not recite Shehecheyanu on a new garment. Many people just skip it because, in the view of the Aruch HaShulchan, Rishus, optional, means exactly that. If you want to do it, go ahead. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Unlike the Mishnah Berurah, who holds that Shehecheyanu is fundamentally obligatory, just not as important as other brachas. The Aruch HaShulchan understands it's totally, absolutely, and in every sense optional. You decide whether you want to say it or not. And if you don't want to, fine, that's your choice. Mihu beperot chadashim kiblu kachova. Nonetheless, many people are very makbid. Many people are very strict and have accepted upon themselves the ongoing obligation to recite this bracha. After all, you have the capacity to create your own obligations by accepting a minhag upon yourself. That's what a minhag is. A minhag is neither more nor less than you accepting upon yourself an otherwise unobligatory practice, a practice which is in general not obligatory, and you accept it upon yourself in an ongoing way. That's what a minhag is. And many people have the minhag to say this bracha. Kulam nizarim b'zeh. And those people are very careful to recite the bracha. It says in the Yerushalmi, these are the words of the Yerushalmi, Misha haya mitzamtzem prutot. Anyone who wished to save some money, someone wanted to save some money and not spend extra money to buy a new fruit. The apricots, the peaches have just come onto the market, so I'll pay for them. Someone who's stingy and doesn't want to pay for the new peaches which have come into the market, doesn't want to eat them because they're expensive. Omer Sham, it says in the Yerushalmi, Atid litein et adin, v'cheshbon al shelo achal. Those people will be punished for having refrained from eating the new fruit. According to Yerushalmi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects you to enjoy. According to the Yerushalmi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects you to benefit from everything in this world. The world was created for you, and therefore you are expected to enjoy, derive benefit from everything in the world. And if you refrain from benefiting, enjoying God's creation, you're guilty, and therefore, according to the Yerushalmi, you can expect to be punished for that. Well, although the Aruch HaShulchan, in principle, as far as pure halacha is concerned, disagrees with the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah taught us that Shehecheyanu is really obligatory in a minor way. And the Aruch HaShulchan disagrees and teaches us that it's totally optional, but you still don't want to be guilty of failing to enjoy and benefit God's creation by eating the new peach or whatever it is that came into the market. So bottom line, they're agreeing that you have to make the bracha, but for different reasons. According to the Mishnah Berurah, you have to make the bracha because it's basically obligatory. According to the Aruch HaShulchan, you have to make the bracha for a different reason, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects you to acquire a peach and eat it.
Question?
Yes.
Is he saying just that if you don't eat it at all, but like if the price is going to come down in 2 weeks and you say, I'll wait for 2 weeks?
Oh, okay, so then you will enjoy it. Very good, very good. You don't have to buy it when it's expensive. You can wait for the price to go down.
Just as long as you all together.
Very good.
Okay.
The Moruksir of Yaakov Emden, he was one of the big names in the one of the big names in the 18th century. It was him and Reb Yonason Eibschitz were the two big names in those days. He writes, "Lo shayach bebirkas Shehecheyanu safek brachas lahakel, lefi shebracha zo nitkana al simchas alev, shesameach b'hana'ah chadasha shebalo." The general rule is safek brachot lahakel. Since the obligation to recite brachot is d'Rabbanan, with two exceptions, Birkat Hamazon and Birkat Torah. We're not talking about the two exceptions at the moment. All other brachot are d'Rabbanan, and the rule in general with mitzvahs of rabbinic origin is besafek, if there's some doubt whether or not the obligation, if there's some doubt about whether or not a rabbinic obligation applies to you, then the rule is lahakel, to be lenient. Just the opposite of the rule if we're talking about a Torah obligation. If there's any doubt whether or not the obligation pertains to you, then you have to be machmir, you have to be strict. That's if it's a Torah obligation. But rabbinic obligations, including all brachot, aside from Birkat Hamazon and Birkat Torah, they're all d'Rabbanan, so the rule is to be mekel, and add to that if in fact you are not obligated and you are mahmir and say the bracha, well, you're guilty of using God's name in vain. And therefore, although in general the rule is safek d'Rabbanan l'kula, in any dubious case regarding a rabbinic obligation, one should be lenient, although that's in general the rule. As far as brachot are concerned, it's a very strong rule. In general, you can choose to fulfill rabbinic obligations, even though you're exempt. But brachas, no, you cannot run the risk of using God's name in vain, and therefore you should recite the bracha only if you're sure that you're obligated to. And this particular bracha, as we have seen over and over again through the sources, this particular bracha, Shehecheyanu, depends upon simchat halev, your joy. Shesameach b'hana'ah chadasha, that you experience joy because you now have the new peach, which is the season of peaches has come. In B'riyah or B'shmiyah, it depends on when you experience the simcha. Seeing the fruit, make the bracha then. Eating the fruit, make the bracha then. And b'davar gufani or ruchani, and it doesn't matter whether your simcha is gufani, physical, you love the taste, or ruhani, your simcha can be spiritual, acknowledging that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us these new fruits. Doesn't matter what the source of your simcha is, but you need the simcha in order to recite the bracha.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I know we've mentioned the simcha a bunch of times from the beginning from the different sources, but what is the source that the simcha is the reason for the bracha of the Shehecheyanu?
That is a great simcha ruchanit. Oh, now I have an opportunity to praise God in the form of a bracha, and it fills me with simcha. Go ahead.
So there's a source of just when you're feeling simcha to make a bracha?
Simcha to make a bracha, yeah. I'm now provided with an opportunity to praise God with this bracha. Go for it, definitely.
But it has to be based on something. There has to be some specific.
I detect that something's missing from our discussion here. We've left out a fundamental principle. We've not defined what simcha is. How do you know when you are experiencing simcha? How do you know what is simcha? Like you might want to say, I cannot describe it, but I know it when it happens. That's very nice, but not good enough for a halachic definition. As far as halacha is concerned, simcha has a fairly clear definition. Poskim disagree on the details, but the basic idea is as follows. Every Shabbos morning in the davening, we speak about the simcha and sason of the celestial bodies as the sun is rising, and the celestial bodies are smechim bevoam sasim b'tzeisam. The celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, have great simcha as they course their paths, as they follow their orbits. The tefillah after Baruch Hu, the Yotzef for the first bracha of Kriya Shema is just quoting, not word for word, is referring to a pasuk in Yeshayahu, which also talks about the sun and the moon experiencing simcha. In what sense do the celestial bodies experience simcha? Well, the Mefarshim on the psukim in Yeshayahu explain as follows: the celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, are tireless. They never tire of following their orbits. They have endless energy. It's the energy, the merits, the energy which represents the simcha. I described to you two different cases, one of simcha, one lacking simcha, and you'll understand the difference right away. Imagine these two cases. Two people attend a chasana. Two people go to a wedding. One of the two is energized by the simcha. He's singing and dancing with energy all night long. The second guy, well, it could be a woman. I don't know, are we allowed to use the word guy for women? I always can't keep track of what's correct anymore. The second person attending the chasana has no energy, just sits there and cannot motivate himself or herself to do anything. No energy at all. The experience of attending the wedding is not energizing for the second person. As far as halacha is concerned, let's leave psychological discussions for psychologists. As far as halacha is concerned, simcha, b'chol haTorah kula, is represented by the energy, the merits, the energy that you experience. Well, you know whether or not you experience that being energized. If so, that's simcha. The two people can relate to a single performance of music in very different ways. One person can listen to music, and the music energizes the person. The person wants to get up and start dancing. That's simcha. And in halachic contexts where simcha is prohibited, for example, for avelim, people in mourning, well, that person should not listen to the music which energizes the person and makes him or her want to get up and start dancing. On the other hand, another person might listen to exactly the same performance. How dull, I can't wait for it to end. No energy. No energy, not an experience of simcha, and even in a context where simcha is prohibited. As for avelus in mourning, well, no particular prohibition at all. Okay, as far as Shehecheyanu is concerned, uh, uh, if you experience the simcha, the peaches are in the market. I'm running to the store to buy one. Oh, peaches are now available. We're going to serve them for dessert. We're looking forward to it. If the appearance of the new peaches energizes you, that's simcha. Now you ask specifically about whether the bracha itself, having a simcha for the bracha itself. Well, yes, indeed. If having the opportunity to make the bracha Shehecheyanu on new fruit energizes you, and you're going to do it with energy, then by all means go ahead. That's an experience of simcha, and that in and of itself justifies Shehecheyanu. On the other hand, someone else who says, "Oh, it's a new fruit. I guess I have to say a Shehecheyanu on it." Well, no, that's not nothing energized there, and it would be wrong to say the Shehecheyanu. Okay, so far so good.
1 second, what's the connection between the Shehecheyanu and the Simcha though? Like the nusach of the bracha, Shehecheyanu Kimanu V'Giyanu. What, like I'm saying, how do we know
Yeah,
that the Simcha is directly related
I
to
skipped. Yeah, I skipped the Mishnah and the Gemara and the Rambam and the Rishon.
Right.
That's where it all comes from.
Okay.
The best place to find all of these sources in an orderly way is, of course, in the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef is Reb Yosef Karo's encyclopedic commentary on the Torah,
Mm-hmm.
and in this siman of the Shulchan Aruch, Reish Kaf Hey, in the Beis Yosef, he marshals together the passages in the Gemara and the principal Rishonim, and there you'll see it one after another.
Thanks.
Okay, so according to the more Uktzia, if we have something which is mitchadesh, becomes new after a period of time, chova al adam levarech lahodot alav. Of course, he holds that it's chova, and one of the things which influenced the more uktzia to the position of chova, obligatory, absolute obligation, is kederch arizal, kederch amru chazal. This is what the Chachamim say: asur le'not min ha'olam hazeh b'li bracha. Reciting the bracha permits eating the food, as I explained earlier, and the part of the heter to eat the food is not only to acknowledge that God created it. That's perpetuates, so perpetuadama or shakol yibidvoro, whatever it is you're eating. The part of the heter that permits you to eat the food is not only the verbal acknowledgement that God created it, but also the verbal acknowledgement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has brought us to the season. We've lived to experience this season when the new stuff is available. And therefore, he holds that Shehecheyanu is on exactly the same level as Boi Pri Eitz, Boi Pri Adama, on exactly the same level of obligation. And this is then going to create a problem when we want to talk about which comes first, but that'll be for a separate discussion later on. That's his fundamental decision. It's obligatory. What have we seen? The poskim disagree about whether or not Shehecheyanu is obligatory, optional, or somewhere in between, basically obligatory, but not so obligatory. The whole spectrum of thinking exists regarding the nature of Shehecheyanu. Now, I want to take a look at the Torah Lishma. This is a collection of She'elat Tshuvot, which were first published, existed in manuscript for many years, kicking around in libraries, and it was first published around 25 years ago, and made quite an impression on the Torah world. It's anonymous. And the tshuvas are beautiful. The tshuvas are profound. The tshuvas made a great impact on the Torah world. And around 25 years ago, shortly after it was published, people came quickly to the realization that all of the opinions expressed in the Torah Lishma correspond exactly with opinions of the great Ben Ish Hai, Rav Yosef Chaim, the great 19th century Rav of Baghdad. And therefore, nowadays, it is the consensus of, as far as I know, all the Chokrim, everyone agrees that the text we're going to look at was written by Rabbi Yosef Chaim, the Ben Ish Hai, the great Rav of Baghdad in the 19th century. But even if that authorship would be somehow proven wrong, the text, the power of the text, the authority of the text rests in its own convincing manner. Let's see what he says. Mitzvah shabal lidei adam b'mamon, any mitzvah that you pay for, any mitzvah that costs you money, yesh la ma'ala gedola v'niskava ma'od. That's far above, far more precious. That mitzvah is far more precious, far more valuable than a mitzvah which you get for free. You get a mitzvah for free. It's very nice. It didn't cost you anything to do a mitzvah. Oh, but if you had to pay for it, that's a much greater mitzvah. Given a choice between devoting your efforts to a mitzvah that costs you nothing or a mitzvah which is going to be expensive, go for the expensive one. That's good. Now, in passing, I will tell you another halacha. He says, Ki alpi divrei Zohar Kodesh. According to the Zohar, and the Ben Ish Chai was not only one of the great halachists, one of the great poskim, he was also one of the great mekubalim. It's unusual to find gedula, to find greatness, both in the area of halacha and in the area of Kabbalah in a single person, but in this case, definitively, he was a gadol in both. In the Zohar, hiflig b'shvacha mitzvah she'adam kone b'mamon. The Zohar goes to length to praise mitzvahs that cost you money, that you have to pay for. The Zohar expressed this in the following terminology. These are the words of the Zohar. Aval, ishtalus dekodesh baruch hu, tekaima be'uvda asil inatlele leminga rikaya. Anyone who makes an effort to fulfill a mitzvah, anyone who makes an effort to fulfill the wishes, the mitzvahs of Kodesh Baruch Hu, must try to do it not bechinam, not for free, but by paying for the mitzvah. The Zohar emphasizes the importance of raising the spiritual level of the mitzvah by paying for it. Hine mizeh yesh lanu lilmod. The conclusion is as follows. Im adam kana etrog kasher. If you buy for yourself a kosher esrog with your own money, you bought it before Sukkot. K'dei litol oto b'yom tov, you want to use it on Sukkot. And after you bought an esrog with your own money, achakach, afterwards, shalchu lo b'matana chaluta esrog acher me'ir acheres, v'naseh etzlo shnayim. Someone then gave you someone now gave you an esrog. Now you have two esrogim. The first one you bought. The second one was a gift. Someone gave you as a gift an esrog. Lo yivarech ella al esrog shekana b'damim. You should make the bracha and do the mitzvah with the esrog that you paid for. Even if the free esrog that you got for free is a better esrog, even if the esrog you got for free is muhudar, is much more beautiful and in every way, in every other way, better for the mitzvah, it's the first one that you paid for, which is the best for the mitzvah. I'll tell you another thing, he says. Al pi Zohar Kadosh, according to the Zohar, which we just mentioned, behind milsa shchicha, and this comes up frequently, etzel b'nei adam, many people experience the following situation. Hu ki yadua shebirka Shehecheyanu al pri chadash yibirka shvach v'hodah l'kodesh baruch hu. Everyone knows that Shehecheyanu is a bracha of praising and thanking God. That's what Shehecheyanu is, a bracha of praising and thanking God. Yesh ba mitzvah rava. It's a great mitzvah to be able to say Shehecheyanu. Gam bazeh, in this area as well. Yizaher, you should be careful. Levarech al pri chadash shekenahu b'damim. You should be careful to recite the bracha Shehecheyanu on a fruit or vegetable which you paid for with your own money. Im nizdamen sheshalchu lo acherim pri chadash b'matana. If someone gives you a new fruit as a gift, or you were a guest in someone's home and they served a new fruit, you didn't pay for it. The host is just serving it. You haven't yet made a Shehecheyanu on this new fruit. Don't eat it. It's only a gift, or it's only the host serving you. You didn't pay for it. Go to the market, buy one yourself, and then make a Shehecheyanu. According to the Ben Ish Chai, in every way, it's given a choice. In every way, it's better to do a mitzvah that you pay for rather than a mitzvah which is done for free. And this pertains not only to Esrogim and every other mitzvah, but pertains to Shehecheyanu as well. Given a choice, perhaps you have perhaps there's no other way. Perhaps the only way you can make a Shehecheyanu is on the fruit which is a gift, or the fruit which the host is serving you. Go for it. But if you have a choice, you have an option. You can go to the market and buy it yourself. Go for the paid version of the mitzvah. That's better. So I'm going to pause this time and leave the question of the Seder HaBrachot, which comes first, perpetuates or Shehecheyanu, which to do first, which I can leave that for next week. Until then, I wish you a good week and a safe week and a good Shabbos, and look forward to seeing you again next week. And we are going to be continuing for the foreseeable future. We're going to be continuing on Mondays at 1:45.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions at this time, feel free to ask them.
Shabbat Shalom. Have a good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I had a question, if it's possible.
Yeah, sure, Aaron.
If you eat the fruit already, and he's saying like if you're by someone's house and then they give you the fruit, and he's saying it's more preferable, the Ben Ish Chai or whoever wrote the Torah Lishma, he's saying to wait till you buy with your own money. But let's say in general, if you see the fruit the first time, or like if you eat it already, can you still make the Shehecheyanu if you didn't make the Shehecheyanu on that time?
Excellent question. Excellent question. And I promise you, in Yirtzeh Hashem, we're going to deal with exactly this question next week.
Sounds good. All right, I'll see you next week, God willing.
Where are you physically located?
I'm in Bat Ayin. I'm in Yeshiva in Bat Ayin.
Oh, Bat Ayin, very good. Out in Gush Etzion.
Yeah.
B'Hatzlacha.
Thanks. Have a great week. Take care.
Shalom. Shalom.
Bye.